Good evening and welcome everyone to our Christmas Eve service. My name is Lori Bilby and I'm here with Jane Kavanaugh and our settled minister, Reverend Ellen Quadras, who offers spiritual leadership here at South Church in partnership with Kirsten Hunter, our director of Lifespan Ministry. The music for this service is being offered by Johnny Pfeiffer and Susan Adams. A special welcome to those of you who may be visiting us for the first time or for the first time in a while. And welcome to those who are watching on our live stream, and thanks to all of the folks who work behind the scenes to make this service happen. Tonight we will have our traditional candle lighting ceremony near the end of our time together. You'll find the words for Silent Night on the inside back cover of your order of service. And at this point you should all have a candle, so if you don't, this is a good time to raise your hand so an usher can find you and bring you, oh, you're so good, you already did it. And if you're watching from home or other locations, it's a good time to grab one from wherever you keep your candles. In the interest of safety, our state fire marshal has requested that we take a couple of precautions, like making you aware of the fire exits, which are to the back where you came in, and also to the right of the chancel, right up here where it says, conveniently, exit. We'd also like to remind you how to light candles without getting the hot wax on yourself or your neighbor, as that does tend to make the whole experience more enjoyable. So when lighting your candle, please take your unlighted candle and place it over your neighbor's upright lighted candle. Never tilt the flame. In this way, we'll pass the light from candle to candle and from person to person until every candle is lit. And I would ask you now, if you haven't already, to please silence any electronic devices you might have with you as we settle in together for an evening of story and song.
We begin by kindling the lights of the season, starting with the Advent candles with words adapted from Reverend Teresa Ninin Soto. Light now, Advent Candle 1, beams hope through the long stretch of night. Light now, the Advent Candle 2, since love is bringing something new. Light now the Advent Candle 3. We light a pink candle, one to signify the light of joy. Light now the Advent Candle 4, a blazing light that shines for peace. And for our Advent Christ candle, we read from the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verses 2 and 6. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Tonight is also the 7th night of Hanukkah. While this is a minor holiday in the Jewish tradition, the teachings of Judaism, along with those of Christianity, are among the six key sources of Unitarian Universalism. For this reason, in the spirit of honoring all those with Jewish heritage who are here tonight, we will also light the lights of the menorah. I would like to invite Myra Aronson forward to light the lights and to offer the special Hanukkah prayers.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlek ner shel Hanukkah. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with mitzvot and command us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavotenu, bayanim hahem b'zman hazeh. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You showed wonders to our ancestors in days of old and at this season.
And as Unitarian Universalists, we light the chalice, symbol of our faith, with these words from Reverend David Breeden. In this holiday season, throughout the year to come, and always in our lives, may we know we are loved. May we share the love we have, and may we be the love we wish to see. Please stand as you are able and join me in repeating the South Church mission statement found in your order of service. At South Church, nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. And we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Please remain standing for our opening hymn, number 253, O Come All Ye Faithful. We'll sing verses 1 and 3.
imagine that the ancient story is radically new. Imagine that after years of hearing story after story of men and women bowing abjectly before the might of kings and emperors, dictators and tyrants, you hear a story in which 3 kings kneel before a tiny child in praise of possibility. Imagine that after hearing story after story of long and bloody battles and heroes slaying their enemies, bombings and burnings and persecutions, you one day hear the quiet story of a birth, the story of a humble carpenter and his gentle wife, shepherds in a starlit field, animals in a stable, the story of the deep human longing for peace. Imagine that you are hearing for the first time a story that questions the assumptions that power resides in armies and armadas, in magic swords or sacks of gold. Imagine you hear a story that affirms the strong, transforming power of love. Imagine the day when everyone who hears the story and says, "I believe," will be talking about that meaning, not the plot. Tonight, we tell that story through age-old verses, tiny windows on the past in which they were written. Each of those verses followed by a modern reading, another window into the story of our common humanity and our common possibility. We bring you tonight that ancient story, that ever-new story. Let us listen to the story.
Our first reading on the birth of Jesus is from the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be enrolled. This was the first enrollment when Quirinius was governor of Syria, and all went to be enrolled, each to his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be enrolled with Mary, his betrothed, who was with child. And while they were there, the time came for her to be delivered. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn.
Our modern reading on birth is called On the Night That You Were Born and is by Nancy Tillman. On the night you were born, the moon smiled with such wonder that the stars peeked in to see you. And the night wind whispered, "Life will never be the same," because there had never been anyone like you ever in the world. So enchanted with you were the wind and the rain that they whispered the sound of your wonderful name. The sound of your name is a magical one. It sailed through the farmland high on the breeze, over the ocean and through the trees, until everyone heard it and everyone knew of the one and only ever you. Not once had there been such eyes, such a nose, such silly, wiggly, wonderful toes. When the polar bears heard, they danced till dawn. From faraway places, the geese flew home. The moon stayed up till morning next day, and none of the ladybugs flew away. So, whenever you doubt just how special you are, and you wonder who loves you, how much, and how far, listen for geese honking high in the sky. They're singing a song to remember you by. Or if the moon stays up till morning one day, or a ladybug lands and decides to stay, or a little bird sits at your window a while, it's because they're all hoping to see you smile. For never before in story or rhyme, not even once upon a time, has the world ever known a you, my friend. And it never will, not ever again. Heaven blew every trumpet and played every horn on the wonderful, marvelous night you were born.
The sound of each name is a magical one. The night of each birth is a marvelous one. Each person is special and unique and precious. And sometimes one of our precious people needs a little help. Whether that's someone in this community who may need help with doctor bills, heating oil, or with rent. Or with someone outside these walls who needs money for a motel room, some help with car payments, or supplies for their newborn baby. Your gifts to the minister's discretionary fund can make all of that and more possible for people who need it. Thank you for whatever you can do to help make this kind of assistance possible in the coming year. The offering will now be given and received with gratitude.
Our reading on shepherds and angels is from the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 8 through 20. In that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for see, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You will find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those whom he favors." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's now go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed by what the shepherds had told them. But Mary treasured all of these things in her heart, treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart.
The shepherds, everyday, unremarkable people doing everyday, unremarkable things, were having, you might expect, their unremarkable ups and downs, dealing with the cold, dark, hunger, what have you. And then something tugged them out of their preoccupations. They saw something, maybe felt something that they may not have understood, but they followed all the same. Something that practically led them by the hand. Here's a poem by Gary Johnson. It's called December. A little girl is singing for the faithful to come ye, joyful and triumphant, a song she loves. And also the partridge in a pear tree, and the golden rings and the turtle doves. In the dark streets, red lights, green and blue, where the faithful live, some joyful, some troubled, enduring the cold and even the flu, taking the garbage out and keeping the sidewalk shoveled. Not much triumph going on here, and yet there is much we do not understand. And my hopes and fears are met in this small singer holding on to my hand. Onward we go, faithfully into the dark. Are there angels hovering overhead? Hark. Let us join together in singing, "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." The words can be found in your order of service. Please remain seated for this hymn.
You know how the story continues. 3 wise men came to Jerusalem looking for this child, King of the Jews. King Herod felt threatened, so instructed the wise men to seek out the child and then tell the king where he could be found. And then, as it is written in Matthew chapter 2, verses 9 through 12, they went their way, and lo, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshiped him. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And, being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by a different way.
Our more modern reading on the star and the wise men is called A Christmas Star by Clark Dewey Wells. Several years ago, and shortly after twilight, our 3.5-year-old tried to gain his parents' attention to a shining star. The parents were busy with time and schedules and irritabilities of the day and other worthy preoccupations. Yes, we see the star. Now I'm busy. Don't bother me. On hearing this, the young one launched through the porch door and into the house, fixed us with fiery gaze, and said, "You be glad at that star." I will not forget the incident or his perfect words. It was one of those rare moments when you get everything you need for the good of your soul. Reprimand, disclosure, and blessing. It was especially good for me, that surprising moment, because I am one who responds automatically and negatively to the usual exhortations to pause and be more appreciative of life, unquote. Fortunately, I was caught grandly off guard. There is a notion with some truth in it that we cannot command joy, happiness, appreciation, fulfillment. We do not engineer the seasons of the soul or enjoin the quality of mood on one another. Yet I do believe there is right and wisdom in that imperative declaration. You be glad at that star. Let us join together in singing carol number 259, We Three Kings of Orient Are. We will sing verses 1 and 4. Please remain seated for this hymn.
Thank you.
Star of wonder, star of night, leading us, guiding us. Once in a while, when I come home in the evening, I will look up just past the edge of my house and see an incredible array of stars scattered in familiar patterns, ordinary and magnificent. And once in a while, not often enough, the sight will stop me, creating a sense of expansiveness in that darkness around my house and in me. I think there's a reason stars show up so often in the Christmas story. They remind us of something much vaster than we are. And at the same time, they remind us that we are part of that vastness, that we are, as Carl Sagan put it, star stuff ourselves. Made of the same raw materials, we are as unique and extraordinary as any of those blinking lights in the sky. The world has never known a you before and never will, not ever again, as we heard in that Nancy Tillman poem read earlier. To be glad at that star is to allow that realization in, is to be glad about this singular opportunity to be alive as ourselves in this once-in-a-lifetime moment in time. When I let it, that realization fills me with a sense of wholeness and connection, and I can exhale with a feeling, oh, I'm okay. Life in this moment is good. I appreciate the gentle reminders of the shining stars of Christmas, and in holiday traditions like this one, where we gather in a warm sanctuary with greens and decorations and lights, and soon the glow of candles, of Christmas cheer, and a sense that all perhaps is well with the world, or could be. Here, for a moment, we allow ourselves to be drawn into the warmth of companionship and out of our troubles. Not because we can command happiness, but because underneath all that troubles us, joy is our birthright. A child will lead them, proclaims the Hebrew Bible, interpreted by Christians as a foretelling of Jesus' birth. The wolf will lie down with the lamb, leopards with goats, the calf with the lion, and a little child shall lead them, the scripture says. There is a peace, this passage implies, that is deeper than one we may have known for a long time, underneath all that now troubles us, and a little child can help us find it. Children, I once heard it said, are closest to the source, that mysterious source from which we have all sprung. Children are closer to their birthright of joy and connection, and they see things afresh. They point us toward gladness at stars. They tug at our hands and our hearts, singing as we shovel the sidewalk or take out the garbage, changing our perspective, maybe changing us. They can point us toward a deeper peace. Whether that is children in our lives today or that infant who calls to us still from a drafty, cold stable some 2,000 years ago. An infant who became an adult, able to hold on to his fresh perspective, able to teach great, startling insights tug at hands and hearts, whose life of integrity ultimately turned a whole lot completely upside down. And that spirit we celebrate today. That spirit of love, of connection, a spirit that can turn everything around, that can be born afresh in each of us. I want to share with you in closing a Christmas story about one small way this childlike, sprightly spirit can turn at least one soul around. The story is from the Reverend Carl Scoville, highly respected former minister of King's Chapel in Boston. He retired maybe 20 years ago. And he was a minister of the old school. He liked to call himself the reigning benevolent despot of 63 Beacon Street, the parsonage where he lived with his family. There was, in his words, a certain sense of equilibrium among his family living there, but with a few exceptions. One of the main differences his daughters had with his benevolent rule was on the topic of how warm the house should be, a salient topic perhaps for us in this day. Here's the story in Reverend Scoville's words. I grew up in a house without central heating, and I have always felt that a cool house is a healthy house, impervious to colds, and conducive to the flow of blood. My daughters, however, do not share that sentiment and at times become articulate upon the point. Last Christmas, when I refused to turn up the heat sufficiently high to raise a winter's supply of orchids, the youngest daughter proclaimed, "Behold, a decree went out from Carl Augustus that all the world shall be frozen," and each went to her own room to be frozen. "Nonsense," Carl replied. "You're much better off here than if you were living in China or Russia." I don't recall her precise response to that, Reverend Scoville writes, but she intimated that my argument was moot, and something in her tone suggested the matter was not settled. That Christmas Eve, King's Chapel held its traditional services, and Reverend Scoville had added a new feature. In all of its 300 years, King's Chapel had never had a creche scene, and this year he added to the front of the sanctuary a small terracotta creche with Mary holding Jesus in her arms, Joseph, shepherds, sheep, and kings. Now, 300 years without a creche scene is a long time, and he worried he might receive objections, but everyone seemed pleased with the addition. There were 3 Christmas services, and all went well until after the last service, when the deacon came running up to Reverend Scoville and said, "I think you better come down to the front of the church." "What's the matter?" Reverend Scoville asked, and the reply, "One of the pieces of the creche has been stolen, and it's Jesus." "Oh, Lord," thought Reverend Scoville. "The first time we put it out and someone takes a piece, I hope this doesn't mess things up for the next 300 years. As they walked down the aisle of the church, he couldn't help wondering who would do such a thing. A drunk, a nut, an objector, a prankster. "We got to the chancel," he writes, "and looked at the creche, and sure as shootin', the baby was gone. Then," he said, "I saw that someone had placed a piece of paper under the figure of Mary. I drew it out and found the following message printed neatly in pencil. We've got Jesus. Turn up the heat at 63 Beacon Street. And we'll return him for the morning service." And so the story resolved. The heat went up in the parsonage, the infant reappeared at the creche, and everything returned to normal. Well, almost to normal. The benevolent despot at 63 Beacon Street sat thereafter a little less certainly upon his throne, Reverend Scoville writes, which is not surprising, he concludes, because no monarch, indeed no despot, can ever be so sure of his rule after a child has been born. Wake-up calls are everywhere. Playful ones and serious ones. Opportunities to reconsider our positions, our perspectives, these abound in life. When we find ourselves nudged from our old ways by the image of a vast night sky, the teachings of an ancient holiday, or an impish, insightful child, may we take it. When we do, we may well see life afresh, be turned around, and find again our own birthright of peace and joy. In a world that sorely needs it, may we find that peace, may we create peace, and may we share our love and peace with others. Amen. Excerpt from Amazing Peace by Maya Angelou. This is the glad season. Hope in the faces of children. Hope spreads around the earth, brightening all things, even hate, crouching in dark corners. In our joy, we think we hear a whisper. At first, it is too soft, then only half heard. We listen carefully as it gathers strength. We hear a sweetness. The word is peace. We, Baptist and Buddhist, Methodist and Muslim, say, "Come, peace. Come and fill us and our world with your majesty, so we may learn by your shimmering light how to look beyond complexion and see community." At this holy instant, may we welcome the precious advent of trust. May we shout with glorious tongues at the coming of hope to celebrate the promise of peace. Let us be still in this darkness of our sacred space and listen to the quiet around us. For even in the quiet, there is the gentle being with others. Let us feel the warmth of this community, knowing we are not alone. For in the quiet shadow is the glow of life within all. I now invite our candlelighters to come and meet me down on the floor in front here. We see in the darkness the gift each candle bears, a small flame, a diminutive light, yet the wondrous gift to kindle another's glow. Let us allow the awe of this moment in as we take up each other's flame. And light envelops this room as hope for peace and goodwill fill this night. So may it be. You will find the words to Silent Night in the very back of your order of service. Please stand as you are able. invite you to be seated and blow out your candles as the lights rise again.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction is by Reverend Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home and the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, and to make music in the heart. May it be so. Amen. Merry Christmas.